Okie dokie, let's see if everything's working just fine. See if the camera works. Alright, yeah, it works. Hello, good afternoon. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I was taking a nap earlier and I'm like, I was gonna sleep. I was actually gonna just sleep the whole evening away, but then I woke up and I remembered, I'm like, I have a stream today. Oh, crap. So yeah, here we are. Welcome to session 44. Yeah, so I'm just doing some audio check too while I'm at it. So welcome to session 44. Hopefully everything should be working just fine now. I will be updating Discord hopefully later this evening. I was supposed to go out and do some grocery shopping, but I'm just like, I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, so welcome back. We are continuing today's stream Itinerary, where we will talk about greetings, English for Everyone Chapter 17, and questions, comments, concerns, and suggestions. Also, I just realized I forgot to share my screen. And this should work. Hold on a second. Voila, it should work. Cool. Yeah, it should work now. Awesome possum. Alright. I totally forgot to share my screen from our lesson for today, but we'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, today's stream itinerary includes greetings, English for Everyone Chapter 17, question, comments, concern, and suggestions. Alright, so greetings. I am back from my shift at work. Tuesdays are nice because it's a minimum day for me, so I got to get home early, but traffic was horrible today. If you guys know LA traffic, it sucks. There always seems to be an accident. People don't know how to drive in California, especially in Los Angeles. I don't know what happened, but there were multiple accidents this morning. There were 2 cars that got into a collision on the right shoulder of the road. So in California, we drive on the right side, and incoming traffic is coming on the left side. So the right shoulder, there were 2 cars that just looked really, really bad on the shoulder. And basically, one guy's like rear end was like, it just crumpled up. Like, you know how you like crumple a piece of paper? It was just like that bad. And then the one that hit him was also bad at the front. It looks like both of the cars were abandoned, so maybe the drivers were okay. I didn't see any police cars at that time. Maybe it just happened recently or something. And yeah, there were just a lot of traffic because people were looking. They're like, what's going on over there? And I don't see anyone inside the vehicle. So maybe, I don't know what happened, but yeah, I didn't see an ambulance. I did not see a police. Like, even the drivers were missing. So I was just thinking that maybe the drivers were okay and safe. Don't know. Maybe they just chose not to report it or something. I don't know. That was just kind of weird. There was also a closure on the side street when I went to work today. So I left early this morning because I was kind of expecting traffic was going to be bad. I had my GPS on. Like, first thing I do in the morning is typically I turn on my GPS, I check how bad traffic is, and Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are usually the worst. Monday and Friday seem to be a little bit nice in terms of traffic. Friday is always the best because traffic is like, it goes from like 1 hour and 10 or 20 minutes down to 55 minutes. And normally, if there was no traffic, it would take me approximately 38 minutes to get to work. Yeah. But with traffic, you can imagine, I'm just stuck there for like up to 90 minutes. It just sucks. But yeah, surviving that is hard for me because it is a long drive and I have to find ways to keep myself awake because I do feel sleepy when I'm driving. And I entertain myself by watching YouTube videos or like listening to podcasts. Mind you, I don't watch the video fully because, you know, I have to pay attention to traffic. I listen more so to what's being said and I glance at the video if it's like a very, very slow bumper to bumper traffic, my foot's always on the brake because I'm always careful. But I don't watch it fully. My eyes are usually like 80% of the time on the road. 20% will look at the screen and just flicker and then look back at the road and back at the screen and back at the road. And my tablet or my phone is usually like right here, so it's right next to my wheel, so it's like it's just right there, so it doesn't take me to look over my shoulder or look at the passenger seat. It's just right there, so it's just basically a glance, like one look at the screen and look at the road, screen road, and stuff like that. Sometimes it works, but honestly singing is the best for me. If I'm singing and dancing, listening to an awesome song, then that usually wakes me up more. So if I ever get to a point where I'm just like so drowsy, that's when I'm like, okay, time to change the pace, time to play some music that will wake me up essentially, and then I get home safely. So the convenience of just, thank God for YouTube, honestly, thank God for this generation, because without that source of entertainment, it's just like I can barely stay awake from traffic from time to time because I'm always tired. And usually the reason why I'm almost always tired is because I'm emotionally drained and mentally drained by the kids I work with, which is kind of unfortunate to say because, you know, you want to come to work feeling energized and excited. I come to work kind of dreading it, you know, because I usually, for the most part, I deal with a lot of like problematic students, and sure, I don't manage them all the time or 24/7. It can be tiring, but at the end of the day, it's just like I'm exhausted. Dealing with these kids can make me feel kind of sleepy and tired, and it's just, you know, sometimes it's just a little too much for me. So that's why I am more drained than usual, which is unfortunate. And that's why today when I came home, I was like, I'm gonna take a nap. I was supposed to go out and meet with my bestie today, but I was like, I don't know. She's probably like also tired too because she had a meeting for teachers or something. And yeah, that's probably why she has not contacted me, is because of that meeting, or just being drained in general. I don't blame her. We're both tired. I'm just checking my phone for messages and emails. Yeah, we are good. Everything looks good so far. Okay. Anyways, we have, oh, what else? Let's see. Was there anything good that happened today? Oh yes, there's only one thing that happened. Well, maybe a few things. Like, other than my kids being adorable and being like, oh, stay here, I don't want you to go home, you're the best, Miss Hannah, and then stuff like that. You might notice why I say Miss Hannah. It's because with my kids, I don't usually try to correct them on how to pronounce my name. Some will catch on and say, oh, Miss Hannah, and I'm like, oh yay, they actually do care about how you pronounce my name. But others just default by saying Miss Hannah, and I'm like, I'm not gonna bother correcting how they call me. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, the good thing that happened today was actually this, and I want to show it to you guys. I took a picture and posted it on my Instagram. Apparently someone came in to donate stuffed animals to one of my students' classroom, and I saw this really, really cute one where it's like, there's actually two variations of it. There's one with a pig with a unicorn and it's drinking like lychee or peach, I can't remember. But the other one was like this pig wearing a bunny costume and it's drinking like strawberry boba. The moment I saw that, I was like, oh my god, it's me! It's definitely me! And like my students were asking me, they're like, wait, what do you mean it's you? And I said, I was born in 1995. I'm the year of the pig, so the pig is essentially me. And then it's wearing a bunny suit because everyone knows I love bunnies. And then it's drinking strawberry boba because strawberry is my favorite flavor and I love boba. So it's like, it's all me right there. So the teacher overheard the conversation. She went into like, she had extra like plushies in her bag, so she dug one out and then she handed it to me. I was so ecstatic. I just hugged her. I was like, oh my god, I was so happy. Yeah, so now that stuffed animal is in my dashboard. It's just gonna be there making sure that I'm okay. So I was telling my students, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put this on my dashboard now. And my students were like, they're gonna break into your car, people are gonna break into your car and steal that. And I'm like, no, I don't think they would. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I have a stuffed animal that's already there. It's like the octopus that's like angry and happy. So I just leave it on my dashboard. And it doesn't seem to bother or like, you know, encourage anyone to steal anything. Because I'm like, I don't have anything in my car. And hopefully people don't feel encouraged to, because I have my name tags on there and it kind of explicitly says I'm a teacher, tutor, or something, so at least they know I'm in education and I'm working for that school. So I kind of assume people are just like, oh well, this must be a teacher for this school, so part of the community, we won't do anything to that. Well, maybe because who knows, like I work in an area that's a little bit, I don't know if I should say dangerous. It's kind of sketchy, I admit, but I don't think people would go that far to break into my car, because it's just like, what is there to take? There's really nothing. They could see in my back seat that I have a basket and it's filled with papers and that's it. So it could just reinforce the idea that I am a educator. That's it. So it's like, why would you steal from a teacher or educator or a tutor, whatever you want to call me? I don't care, because like formally I'm called an instructional aide, and I'm just like, technically I am also a teacher in a way, because I am teaching them materials that their teacher should have already taught them. So they call me a tutor too. So it's a lot of titles to call me. I think overall you should just call me an instructional aide or just an educator overall, because I do teach. I teach after school now. I'm more proactive in teaching English, ELD, and my co-tutor or co-colleague, whatever you want to call us, he's handling math, which is nice because like we're just balancing each other and just getting through the day. But thankfully the hour goes by rather quickly with our lessons, so it's nice. It's great for both of us. But yeah, that's usually how it is for a quick glance. A quick glance at my 8 to 4 shift in the morning to afternoon. So yeah, there's that. Well, yeah, what else happened? I think that's about it. I forgot to pack lunch, so I went to McDonald's to eat food, and my students were teasing me. They're like, Miss Hannah, you always get McDonald's. They're like, is that what you do? I see you drink McDonald's every day. And I'm like, no, I just forgot to pack lunch, so I just ordered McDonald's. So I try to limit myself to like maybe once or two times a week that I go to McDonald's when I feel like I'm lazy or I'm too tired to prepare lunch for myself. So that's usually what happens. So yeah. My kids are always like, give me food. I'm like, oh, these kids, man. Alright, I think that's about it for that update, because now we're just gonna go straight into the English for Everyone lesson, because I just kind of want to get through with chapter 17 and then I can go back to sleep. I'm gonna be honest, I'm really tired. This daylight savings, moving forward with time, I'm just really tired than usual. It's also because I'm working with kids that are really rowdy, so forgive me if I'm just like getting straight to the point. I just want to finish, I want to sleep, I want to catch up on rest. And if people do show up later, which is like what happened this morning, yeah, I apologize. I'm kind of just gonna go through this because I'm sleepy, guys. Forgive me. Just this week is just kind of for me. But yeah, I'll be streaming again tomorrow morning, and then the morning after that. Sorry, the day after that. So yeah, that should hopefully complete the week. 4 lessons. Yeah, because I remember there's 3 days of conversation practice and then 1 day of grammar. But anyways, we're finally transitioning over to English for Everyone. Sorry, I got too ahead of myself. And then I just gotta put the lesson website just in case. So we're gonna jump here later because I have a feeling we're gonna use audio. Okie dokie. Alright, we have arrived with comparing places. This is chapter 17. You can use modifiers before comparatives and superlatives to compare places, such as geographical features in more detail. Okay, so hopefully this doesn't come off too overwhelming for you guys. I honestly don't remember if we went over comparatives like superlatives in the past, but now we're adding modifiers here too. So We have key language, comparatives with modifiers. Use modifiers before comparatives to be more precise about comparisons you are making. So we would say like a lot, much, a bit, slightly. So the tree is a lot taller than the building. The tree is much taller than the building. So if you say like a lot or much, there is actually more of a distinguished height you can see between them. So it's kind of obvious that there is a height difference. Also, you can't modify comparatives with using very. So they're telling you to use other synonyms of very, if that makes sense to you guys. These modifiers mean there is a big difference between the things you're comparing. So yeah, just like I mentioned, like this view right here, it's quite obvious that there is a notable difference in height. So that's why you would use the word a lot and much shows a big difference. And that's the most important bit. Also, let me just highlight that. Make life easier. And then the tree is a bit or slightly taller than the building. This makes sense because you can actually see here that these modifiers mean there is only a small difference between the things you're comparing. Also, let me fix this. So a small difference. Boom. And I like that they use this word choice because you can see here, it's like there's a slight height difference here, but they're kind of close to each other. So it makes sense to use the word slight or a bit to show that. Okay, moving on to 17.2 key language. Long comparatives with modifiers. The palace is much more beautiful than the factory. The modifier goes before more. Form long comparatives by putting more before the adjectives. Okay, so I feel like these are like a package deal, much more. The palace is much more beautiful than the factory. I'm trying to think about it. Because technically, if you wanted to, you could just say, I'm going to put this in parentheses here too. The palace is more beautiful than the factory. That makes sense as is, but if you want to just add more emphasis, I would say by just adding the word much, it gives some sort of emphasis feeling. So emphasis could be saying like the way you say it. The palace is much more beautiful than the factory. So notice how I just emphasize by saying the word much. Or I could say the palace is much more beautiful than the factory, right? So it could also be like an emphasis in terms of like just comparing which is far more beautiful, right? It's just adding a little bit more of that oomph to it. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it's just adding a little bit more like more feeling to it. So another comparison could be like, let's say I've been watching a lot of Mr. Beast lately, so I think about his videos when he's like comparing a $5 hotel versus a $5 million hotel, right? This is just made up, but it's like when you compare a $5 hotel versus $5 million hotel, you would say the $5 million hotel is much more beautiful than the $5 hotel, right? It's just to give that extra emphasis of like how much more beautiful it is than the other place. So essentially you can drop the word much, so it can be dropped. Oh, I can't even spell, guys. I'm so tired. I'm that level of tired. It can be dropped in most cases, but again, it's just if you want to be a little bit more extra, that's what I mean by being like oomph. You want that more of that feeling, that more natural extraness in your speech, you can say just much. It's just for emphasis sake. But essentially you can drop it, you don't have to say it. It can also be preference. If you don't want to say much, it's fine too. We get it. So we have 17.3, look at the pictures and cross out the incorrect words in each sentence. So we have the tree is a bit or much taller than the house. We can see that there is a significant height difference, so it makes more sense to say the word much. Okay. I'm gonna read the sentence for each one, And then you guys can pause the video if you are watching this like after I finish recording. Also, welcome Ida Adimawe. Nice to meet you and thanks for joining. I'm gonna go over the answers after I read all of the sentences. So yeah, I just want to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to, let's see here. You guys have the opportunity to just have that time, even if you're joining me on live, that's fine. But afterwards, after I finish reading, I'm gonna give you the answer right away, okay? Just so we can just get through this. Just get through this already. We have the mountain is much or a bit taller than the hill. The church is a lot or slightly taller than the cafe. 3, the window is slightly or much wider than the door. 4, the lighthouse is a bit or a lot taller than the statue. 5, the castle is much or slightly bigger than the hotel. So, for number 1, it is obvious with the height difference. So this would be, it would be much taller. So we're crossing out a bit. Number 2, the church. We can see that they're kind of similar in height here. Back then, I used to argue by saying, oh, what about the cross up here with the church? And I'm just like, honestly, the building would be just up here. They just added the cross on top to give that extra height. But it's not a lot taller, it's slightly taller. So the church is slightly taller than the cafe. 3, the window is slightly or much wider than the door. I would say this one, you can say it's like, it's a little bit longer or much longer. Honestly, it's just depending on perspective here. Personally, I would say, actually no, let me see. We can see there's a notable lengthness here in the width. So we would say it is not slightly, but it's much wider than the door. So that's usually how I compare it. If it was just like one window, it would be a little bit hard to tell the difference between if the window is the same size as the door. It might be slightly. I am not perfect when it comes to measuring. So if you argue and say that it's slightly wider than the door, and this is just imagining if we don't have this, right? That's only imagining we don't have that and we were to compare this to that. So yeah, you could be precise and get a measurement and then see if they're the same length or not, or you can say slightly, but that's just the example here. But yeah, only because I'm only given these 2 options. So here, number 4, we have the lighthouse is a bit or a lot taller than the statue. Again, there's a notable height difference, so it's a lot taller than the statue. Then the last one, the castle is much bigger than the hotel or slightly. So I would say this is the height here, so I would say it's slightly bigger than the hotel. Alrighty, next page. We have the key language, superlatives with modifiers. You can use easily or by far to make superlatives adjectives stronger, or one of to show that the superlative belongs to a group of things. So we have the clock tower is easily the tallest building in the town, or the clock tower is by far the tallest building in the town. These modifiers make the superlatives stronger. You cannot use them with comparatives, okay? So you want to treat these modifiers as like most, right? These are the greatest, like above all. So it would be the most obvious. So in this case, we have the clock tower. We can see obviously the clock tower is the tallest building here, right? And most is also supported here by EST, the tallest. This is your superlative as your note. So you would use modifiers that identify that it is the only one, the most obvious one. This is easily the tallest building in the town. Makes sense because obviously after looking at this one area, this particular area, this tells you that it is the most obvious. So easily, another synonym, or basically the message I get from this when I hear the word easily, I get the impression of, actually let me just write it in blue so you guys know the note that I'm feeling here. Easily gives me the impression of it's the most obvious. Okay, that's the impression I get when I hear it. It's like the clock tower is easily the tallest building. Sorry, let me say that again. The clock tower is easily the tallest building in the town. That means it's the most obvious. So it's like, yeah, obvi. That's what we shortcut it. It's obvi. It's very obvious that it's the tallest. When you say the word by far, though, this one's kind of interesting. It means it's the tallest you've seen so far. Okay. So it kind of helps to see the word far is like being recycled here. By far basically means it gives the impression that it is the tallest building, but there's probably another building that's taller than it if you go to a different location, right? So when you say the word by far, it means this is what you've seen so far from this city to this city, and then the clock tower is still the tallest by far. But you still have to visit other cities, so you don't know if there's going to be another building that's taller than the clock tower, right? So by far kind of gives the impression that there's probably going to be more opportunities to compare whatever superlative meaning like an adjective, right? Depending on whatever adjective, it's whatever the tallest or any superlative adjective, right? Or any superlative adjective. So you can say the most beautiful, you can say the clock tower is by far the most beautiful architect that I've ever seen, right? And you could that tells me, okay, so you think the clock tower is beautiful so far. So if I have a conversation, or if someone was on a trip with me and they ask me later, they're like, we go to all of these different landmarks, and they ask me, okay, what do you think? Which one is your favorite overall, right? So now I can no longer say by far, because it's kind of the end of the road, right? Not unless by far gives a continuation. So there's a feeling of contingency. I don't know if I would say continuation. Because it kind of gives the impression that you're still going to be looking around for something else that's better. That's what I mean when you say the word by far. So you might hear this expression. Let's say, I'm just going to go give you another example. Let's say if you're getting married, if you have a bride that's going to get married soon, if you are the maid of honor, you're the bride yourself, or you're the soon-to-be future husband of the bride, you might talk to the bride and say, okay, which one is your favorite wedding dress, right? Because wedding dresses can be hard to find, especially when you are about to get married. You might go to like one venue, then another wedding shop or wedding dress shop, and then another shop, right? So you might say, okay, by far, I think the dress that shows this style, blah, 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 is by far the prettiest. So you notice when I say the word by far, it's because I have the feeling that this one looks good, but I'm not really set on buying that dress yet. It's just the prettiest and the one that I like the most so far. So again, notice the word I say here, so far, because that's all you've seen at the moment. And the impression is that you still have to visit another shop, try on more dresses, and then, or the bride tries on more dresses, and then she gets to select and compare now. Does she like the dress that she selected at the first venue, or does she like the dress in the second venue, right? So now the question is, which one do you like so far? Because there's still another shop she has to visit again. So let's say the bride visits all of the shops that she had planned for that day, and she doesn't have any plans to go to another shop. Then you would sit there and say, okay, bride, which dress do you like? Then she would say, oh, the dress from Dave's Gowns. I forgot the name of the shop, but like, yeah, Dave's Gowns or Dave's Bride Gowns. Sorry, I can't remember, but I know it's called like Dave's something. Dave's Gowns and stuff is easily the most prettiest, the most beautiful dress. I felt like a bride. I felt like I was the most beautiful person when I wore it, etc. So notice how I changed my word. Now it's no longer by far. I say easily. is because it's the most obvious. It's the one I will pick. I will wear that to my wedding. So yeah, these are just very small, again, just very small nuances on these words, and that's why I'm showing these words in action for you guys, because they are similar to each other, but if you really want to understand like the detail or like the specifics of how to apply these words, they're significantly different, right? And this is more of like advanced level tips here. So again, I'm just gonna write a little note here on the side and put advanced. So advanced notes. So that's just to give you extra ideas of how to use the word easily and by far. Okay, so next we have the clock tower is one of the tallest buildings in the town. Now this next expression here, this one's kind of obvious. When you say the word one of, you are trying to express that it's part of a group. So one of makes superlative, the superlative part of a group. So yes, yeah, one of the superlative part of the group. Yeah, okay. I thought I was gonna add something else to it. I think I could give you extra notes. Okay. I'm just thinking about it in my head because this is just another grammar rule that I'm thinking of. When you hear the expression one of ... Also, let me just do this in blue as well because it's another advanced level tip. And I think we're going to talk about it in the future, so I'm just going to drop it here for now. Just for, like, it's just, think of it as like a small sample. Hello, Wenderlima01. Thank you for joining me today. Yeah, so when you hear the word one of, people get confused about the verb that happens next here. So if you say one of the girls is crying, right? So you would have a verb. The verb is in the singular form. So don't be distracted by this expression here. So if you say one of the tallest buildings is where I live. Notice how I said one of the tallest buildings is, not one of the tallest buildings are where I live. It's because one is the main verb that we're looking at. So this is the main, main verb, the main noun. The main object, right? So the main noun, we say one, therefore it is singular. So this is a singular noun. That's what it is. It's a singular noun. One of ... main noun, and then verb singular. So you would say is, for example, from B, or whatever verb you use, make sure it's in the singular form. I wanted to point this out just in case, because the way that they phrase the sentence here so far is just description, right? The clock tower is. So the moment you say the clock tower is, it's setting up to be a descriptive portion here. So the clock tower is one of the tallest buildings in town. But what happens if you move one of the tallest buildings, which is this entire expression right here? What if we make it as the main verb and then we put a verb? Sorry, I keep messing up here. One of the tallest buildings, what if that becomes the main noun and then it's followed by a verb, which is like right here? The verb would be like right here. Then you'd have to pay attention to the word one, because that is the main noun, as I mentioned here. So it's a singular noun. Therefore, ignore whatever is listed here. So it's part of a group, right? So remember, it's part of a group. We don't say it's part of groups. There's no S, no plural. It's part of a group. So you're seeing it as a group, not as individuals in the group. Okay? We'll talk about that more in the future, but this is just a small sample for now. And this is where your verb will just be in the singular verb form. Okay? So again, I'm just providing extra advanced notes here for you guys, just in case if you want to experiment and get ahead of your English and practice with it. One of is singular noun. Okay. So if you use one of with superlatives, the noun must be in plural form. what they're saying is this part here. This is the plural form. It's one of the tallest buildings. This is what they're saying is the plural form. But when you're using one of the tallest buildings, so one is actually the main verb overall in the sentence. Okay. All right. So we're gonna finish that. Move on to 17.5. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. The key language, long superlatives with modifiers. This is by far the most expensive shop in the street. So the modifier goes before the, and the form long superlatives by putting the most before the adjective. Okay, so it's nice because they show it here for you guys in action. We have by far, which is your modifier, and then we have the most. We have most right here. I'm making wiggly for you, and then expensive is your adjective right here. So again, remember that little rule that I told you guys about when you say by far? This is by far the most expensive shop in the street, and they show you here visually that there's a shop that's like worth $1 bill. Sorry, it doesn't mean like exactly $1 bill, but it's saying it's cheaper. Whereas $3 signs, if you use Yelp, for example, they show this the same way too. It lets you know of how expensive the shop is. But again, if they say by far, this is what they've seen so far. But there's a possibility that there's another store that could be even more expensive on the street, right? But they don't know that. But this is the most obvious so far. Again, you could argue and say this is easily the most expensive shop. That means it's the most obvious. But yeah. We have say the sentences out loud correcting the errors. The tree is much the tallest. This tree is by far the tallest. So I don't know if there's gonna be like something that's supposed to read aloud on this. I'm gonna go ahead and open that. So 17.6 so we can hear it. Technically I can just make this as open-ended answers as well if you wish, because as long as you know the vocabulary already, we already mentioned by far. We said easily. Did I write that in blue? Okay, let me double check. Yeah. We have by far and easily. We have what else in our vocabs? I'm trying to find it here. Hold on a second. Easily, by far. And then we also have slightly and a bit. Okay, so I think these are the most common four that we're going to be using to plug in on all of these. I'm also going to double check on the audios because I just can't remember, because based on these images here that you see, I think these are supposed to indicate that you will be listening to an audio and then rewriting the sentence. But I'm going to be a little bit liberating in terms of which one you use. So if you want to write it without the audio, that's totally fine. It's whatever you want to do. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up the audio here for you guys. So I'm going to pull this over here for a second. 17.6. Let me lower down the volume. Alright, so 17.6. We're gonna listen to number 1. Spain is very warmer than Scotland. It's a little bit obvious. I would say Spain is much warmer than Scotland. And remember, they don't say very. So I guess I'm gonna add much here too. Okay. I'm also gonna play the audio for you. We can compare it.
Spain is much warmer than Scotland.
Okay. We have number 2.
Spain is a lot warmer than Scotland.
Okay. So she did list both of them. So you can say much, and then you can say I'm gonna put ADG in the parentheses. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna put much slash a lot. So these are your comparatives. This is with your ER. This is your superlatives. So it could either be adjective plus EST, or the most. Okay. So adjective plus EST or the most adjective. Because, for example, you wouldn't say the most beautifulest, right? Probably in informal English or, yeah, in conversation English, you might hear us say beautiful list. It might feel natural in that case. It's because we use grammar that does not respect the original grammar. So yeah, that's probably why you might feel confused. But again, grammar, they have specific rules. You have to use specific ones here too. Yeah. Let me go ahead and fix this too. Let me move this because I don't want to erase it. Oh gosh, the Y. Okay. Alright, so this is just a reminder. And then these two are your adjective plus ER. So superlatives, adjective plus EST, or the most adjective for by far easily. Those are your superlatives. This one is your comparative. Okay, with the ER. Okay, so they mentioned you can say Spain is much warmer than Scotland, or you can say... Let me also move it over here, make life easier. Or a lot warmer. Hopefully this helps you guys see that you can have two options and is perfectly fine. You can say it's much warmer or a lot warmer than Scotland, and that's perfectly fine. You can kind of guess, and I think it's acceptable if you can use more than one phrase if you wish, but again, I think it's just more on preference. I don't see much of a difference between much, a lot, and slightly and a bit. They're roughly the same synonyms. I don't feel like there's a significant difference in them. If I were to look at specific applications, I don't feel like there's any so far that I can think of. But yeah, we're gonna move on. We have number 2, your house is much more beautiful than mine. Again, if you want to pause the video and then just guess first before I give the answer or before I listen to the audio, you can just use prediction to see if you are able to catch up and kind of guess based on your knowledge on today's lesson. And it's good because if you can get it correct before I give the answer, that just shows that you have like a good understanding on today's chapter. So you can kind of guess, because at this point for me, I don't have to listen to the audio. I can guess what it is. So for number 2, your house is much more... Oh, I said more much. Your house is much beautiful than mine. Again, it's just, you just gotta have to switch it. Your house is much more. And we also have the video, or sorry, the audio to back it up.
Your house is much more beautiful than mine.
And as you can see in this case, much more. So that's another one here. I'm just creating a word bank. Much more beautiful. Oh, that's a superlative. And this one's used with superlatives as well. Okay. Then we have... Oh, actually, no, this is not a superlative. Because it's always the word more. So if you have... Sorry, I'm just trying to fix this. Okay. So we have adjective plus ER, much prettier, or much more beautiful, right? So much would be before more, and this is if you have an adjective that is irregular, so it does not have ER at the end. That's what I mean by irregular. Yeah, so if you say much more, this one would be an example of irregular. So I'm gonna write that as my notes. So remember, irregular adjective, as a reminder, is just when the form does not accept ER or EST added at the end of the adjective. Instead, it just stays the same. That's an example of irregular adjective. So there's no changes. So number 3, the Nile is longer a bit than the Amazon. I'm just gonna play the audio for you guys. I believe it is. The Nile is much longer, or a bit longer than, sorry. So it would be at the front. The Nile is a bit longer. It's just placement than the Amazon.
The Nile is a bit longer than the Amazon.
4, India is one of the largest country in Asia. So remember the rule here. Where is your noun? It has to become plural. Okay. Also, I'm gonna go back and revisit the other ones and highlight them in red so you can see the problem. So you cannot use very warmer. Okay, you can't use very. This one is just much and more, just need to switch. The phrase here a bit. Let's move over here. And in India, we have to change country to countries. Okay. Number 5, the sea is by far colder than the pool. We know that something's wrong here because the expression by far is a superlative. So the sea is by far the coldest. than the pool. Let's see if I got it. Did I get over number 4? Sorry, let's go number 4.
India is one of the largest countries in Asia.
Okay, so we just checked my work there. Countries, plural. Number 5.
The sea is much colder than the pool.
Ah.
The sea is a lot colder than the pool.
That's why I was thrown off. I'm like, because I wanted to stick with by far, so you can see. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I want to make mistakes too, because I want to understand why I can't make this mistake, and that's why making mistakes in English is good, because it also creates discourse and understanding. Why isn't it that we can't use by far here, even though I changed coldest? The reason for that is because I'm actually going to keep this here, and I'm just going to write over it in red so you guys can see more corrections here. We cannot say coldest, even though I made this correction. It is because we are saying than the pool. This is what they're prioritizing in the sentence. So if we are going to use than the pool, they're being very specific here. I'm going to go ahead and put a star here and write it on the bottom. You can only have 2 ways to write this. The sea is by far the coldest. But this doesn't really make sense because which sea? Right? So like, which sea is it? It doesn't really make sense. You gotta be very specific because this is gonna be treated as superlative. You have to use superlative because you use the word by far. And then reinforce by EST as well to show that it is superlative. That's the first one I wanted to point out. The second point here, because again I'm just gonna put this one here. We cannot use by far in this sentence because again, like I mentioned, they are trying to prioritize than the pool. So this should already be a sign. Okay, so that should already be a sign. So that's why I put a little exclamation point here. This should be a sign to tell you that they're trying to use comparatives here. So the sea, we cannot say is by far, and I cannot use the word coldest. So we have to go back to using the word colder. We're keeping this one's okay. So in this case, you cannot use the word by far. We have to use much more or a lot more. Okay. So if we listen to the audio again.
The sea is much colder than the pool. The sea is a lot colder than the pool.
Also, I apologize. Why did I put more? It's just me being extra. We don't need that extra. Because, again, you only say much more if it's a irregular adjective, and I should write that here. That's a regular adjective. So, the sea is much... Change back to red. We have is much colder. And also let me take away this one too because we don't need that. Or a lot colder. Yeah. So again, I feel like it's also good to bring this up. Why did I say much more colder and a lot more colder? It just felt natural for me to say it because that's how I would say it in speech. So see, as you notice, it's not correct in grammar, but it sounds natural in everyday speech. And it doesn't make sense why I have to say much more colder because I'm just doing like a double emphasis at that point of like, why am I saying it's colder why can't I not just say the coldest, right? So let me write that as a note down here. And this is because it's a double emphasis. And it's not necessary. It's just basically a waste of space in grammar. It's a double emphasis, it's not necessary, so why not use superlative? Which is the coldest. Okay, so double emphasis, not necessary, so why not use superlative, the coldest, instead, right? This is the reasoning for grammar. Okay, because again, grammar is law. It's how they want you to teach how to learn English. But what's also important to note is that this entire phrase is actually sounds natural. And I should use and. Okay, so my notes here. Sounds natural and is perfectly acceptable to say in speech because informal speech, that's why. It's informal. No one's gonna care about your grammar when you're speaking. Words are transient. Discourse is transient. When I say transient, it means it's fast. It happens instantaneously. The people who would only call you out are normally people who are really good in their grammar. They'll probably correct you. That's probably the only time. But in most cases, people they get it. They don't need to correct you. They just understand. They accept it. Having broken or incorrect English is actually quite normal, which is hilarious to me. But anyways, that's my whole spiel about when I say much more colder and my error when it came to number 5, which is good because, you know, this is normal mistakes even a native speaker such as myself just made. And it also goes to show that, speakers in English, like native speakers, they're gonna make that mistake too because that's how they speak. But in terms of grammar, it's not correct. So if they were to take the test, that would be it. Okay, so enough of this off-tangent conversation. Let's go ahead and get back to the next question here. We have, this is the most easily expensive hotel in town. We see that it's only one thing that we're saying. So by default, it's superlative. Again, I'm just looking at context here. They're not comparing it to anything. So by default, we're going to be focusing on the superlative words here. This is the most easily expensive hotel in town. So I'm going to say expensive hotel in town. Okay, so what happened here? The most has to just move over here. Okay, that's what happened. In the wrong place. This is easily the most expensive hotel in town. So to compare our answer.
This is easily the most expensive hotel in town.
Okay. Next, we also have the tower is a lot the tallest building here. So is there a comparative? No. Do we see anything that's it's going to compare with? So what's really easy to understand which is superlative and which is comparative. Comparative will always compare two adjectives or two nouns with each other. Sorry, not adjectives. They compare two nouns with each other. That's how you know there's a comparative, which is number 5 here. They mention the sea, that's one noun. Then the pool, that's a second noun. So if you see two of these nouns, it is going to become a comparative. But if I only see one noun, which is the tower here, yeah, we say the tallest building. We know it's a superlative. We're not really using any language. Like, key language for comparison, it's using the word than. Here again, too, look at number 2. Your house is much more beautiful than mine. We know this is also comparative because they have the word more. That's usually the key word. Beautiful is irregular. And then, again, here the Nile is longer than the Amazon. So, keyword than. So just a keynote, I think, let me just write it down here. You know it's a comparative when you see the word than and more. These are keywords. Than and more. If you see them, they are gonna become comparative. But if it's not there, you can assume that it is a superlative, just like this one. You might be confused because it says tower and then they have building here. They're saying the expression the tallest building. So if you see the word the, adjective est, or it would probably be the irregular adjective. The moment you see the, that is a superlative. Okay, that's another key there, detail. And then, yep, that's about it. So we have the tower. We could say the tower is easily the tallest building here. Okay. The tower is easily the tallest building here. I believe you can also say by far as a replacement. We can hear that in the audio to confirm it.
The tower is easily the tallest building here. The tower is by far the tallest building here.
I'm trying to figure out where I would put this here. Yeah, I'll just put key down here just so you guys can see it. Just so I can move this. Okay, just making space look pretty here. Ta-da! So the tower is easily the tallest building here, or the tower is by far the tallest building here. Again, there's a slight specific application for both of them, but in this case, it's kind of ambiguous. Therefore, it is interchangeable. Ambiguous meaning like it's not really specific. We don't know if the speaker is saying that this is what they see by far out of everything they've looked around, or this is just the most obvious. Again, in this case, if it's ambiguous, it's okay to change them. But again, for me as a native speaker, if I hear someone say easily or by far, I have this idea that there's a specific explanation. So by far gives me an assumption that they're still going to be looking around because this is so far what they have seen at this point, and easily just being the most obvious. Okay, so again, that's just wrapping up everything that we talked about in this section. Okay, I'm gonna double check because last time I learned my lesson that both pages have vocabulary, so we're gonna be checking both pages first. Okay, So we have volcano, volcano, volcano. So based on here, K is the point of stress, volcano. Okay? Again, I'm going to repeat it 3 times. We have 2 words here. Mountain range, mountain range, mountain range. And then again, the stress is here. You don't hear mountain range. It just sounds weird. Mountain range. So the stress is at the front. And same thing here, range is since it's just 1 syllable, it's just here. We have glacier, glacier, glacier. So again, it's just 2 syllables. Glay is the stress. We have valley, valley, valley. So this one sounds a little confusing because they sound almost the same. So I'm gonna play around with it so you guys can hear the difference. If you put the stress in va at the front, you'll say valley. Okay? Now if I put the stress in the back, it becomes valley. So as you can see by these 2 comparison, va is the stress. Li is just, there's just a little bit of a stress there, but the most important stress, this is the primary stress. I think that's what we call it. There's a primary and there's a secondary stress. We didn't really go into much details on this. I'll probably do my research on this in the future. But as far as we could see, the primary stress is right here at the front. I shouldn't write primary here. I'm just gonna leave it as underlined. Sometimes we do stress words just because, I don't know, some English words have just moments where we just stress the word and that's it. But if you ever feel like when in doubt, play around with where you're stressing the intonations. And if you want to find this stress in each word, sorry, don't say intonations. If you want to find the stress in each words, it's usually on the vowel. Okay, in English, the vowel is where the stress is located. Hold the word longer in that syllable. So it's usually 1 syllable, that's where we stress. So valley, valley versus valley, valley. And you can hear the difference. So this is just an example of primary stress, meaning the main stress, and then this is just secondary stress. The reason why is because this is how it would look like on IPA. So we have va, and I'm gonna put that at the front. Va. This little dot, this little dash or something that you see here, that's gonna indicate that is the stress. I'm putting a dash here to show that there's a syllable break, and then I'm gonna put this little symbol here. This little colon is supposed to symbolize that you're holding the word a little bit longer. So if I get rid of this colon, I would say valley, or like valley. No, it's hard. Valley. Valley, valley, valley. It just sounds a little bit weird, right? So valley versus valley. It's a very subtle difference, right? So this little colon tells me to hold the vowel sound a little bit longer. So valley is how you would read this in IPA. Versus valley, valley. Which is perfectly acceptable if you're talking in English very quickly. So there used to be a bowling alley near my place. We used to call it the Valley View Lanes. So notice how I said Valley View there. Valley View Lanes. So it still sounds a little stressed, but it also sounds like the stress is dropped. The secondary stress I'm talking about is dropped. But you can see, like, we speak English very quickly. But if we were to say the word one by one and say it slowly, you would hear more of a secondary stress if it's actually present. But yeah, that's just an example of that. We are moving on to the next part here. We have rainforest. 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 So this is a compound word. Compound word basically means that it's two words that are separate and you put them together, right? So what kind of forest is it? The rainforest? I would assume it's because it's very humid and it rains a lot. Maybe that's why it's called the rainforest. But you do have a primary stress again, and you also have forest here. So if you were to treat them as separate words, like this, obviously it would be like this, rain and then forest. So this compound word is an example of there's no disruption, I would say, when it comes to stress, because we're kind of treating them as one word, as is shown right here, but I just separated them up here for just reference. Rainforest, and I even say it as the same, rainforest. There's no difference. Next we have waterfall. 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 So again, we have two words. It's a compound sentence again. Water and fall. So we have waterfall. Oh, actually, let me see. Waterfall. Yeah, I would say water. Wa is definitely the main stress. Fall is also the stress here. Because I'm trying to think in my head here. I have to say it out loud. So if you see me just like blanking out, just thinking, it's just because I'm thinking about it in my head. So I'm thinking of the expression, look out for that waterfall. Look out for that waterfall. I still hear wa is still the front. This is a primary. Waterfall. Because if I were to say waterfall, because I'm trying to put more stress on in the middle. Watch out for that waterfall. No, watch out for that waterfall. Sounds weird. Watch out for that waterfall. Now it sounds weird again too. So again, I feel like wa at the front is the most natural or the closest. So that would be the primary stress. Waterfall. But essentially, all three vowels actually have a stress in each of them. So it's a little bit, it's elongated a little bit longer. So again, to give a reference, we have the dash up here to indicate it. We have wa. Ah. What is the ah symbol again? It's this one. It's been a while since I've used IP. I'm trying to remember what they sound like. Is this the ah sound? Bot. Yes, it is. Wa. Tur with the little squiggly tail. Water. Dash again. Fall. And then if you want to be specific on that, we have our little symbols here. And this is me being very specific in IPA. There's more simple ones actually, so I think there's they call it something transcription. It's been a while. There's like, I think direct transcription or straight transcription. I'm gonna try and look it up. Hold on. What's the difference between? I remember I took this on my test. That's what I was looking for. Woo. So I wanted to share this with you guys. there's actually two ways of transcribing an IPA, and sorry, I'm going off tangent for a quick moment. Broad transcription indicates only the most noticeable phonetic features of an utterance, whereas narrow transcription encodes more information about the phonetic detail of the allophones in the utterance. Broad transcription, what they mean by that is, if I were to write this as just this, okay, this is called broad transcription. What I presented here and in the last page, these are examples of narrow transcription. And it's kind of easy to remember the difference between these two. It's just that narrow transcription, narrow meaning like specific. When you look down a street, it's kind of getting like tight. You're like looking into small details, right? Like it's a very small space. So this is called narrow transcription. Narrow transcription can actually become different per person because it's kind of based on the speaker's perception of the word and how they say it. So narrow transcription can change. It's not solidified. There is some consistency as far as I can see. Broad transcription is also the same, but broad is just more focused on what is the obvious sound that they make. Narrow is looking at what is exactly happening in each word. Like just like what we mentioned, there's a primary stress. So this little dash up here tells me that this is the main stress. The dash that I'm providing is just telling you that there's a syllable break. Waterfall, so that's 3 syllables. Ter is also being stressed by these colons, and fall is also being stressed. And we also have the dark L, which makes a ul sound, like umbrella. Yeah, umbrella, umbrella. So, yeah. But if I leave it as just this L can be mistaken as la, like la la la. So umbrella is a good example of showing that dark L is being used, ul, and then la. Umbrella, dark L, la, which is the light L sound. It's just, these are called allophones. Like, it means like we do have double sounds in certain letters of the alphabet, and a lot of languages do have these too. Not all, I think, but we do have, I take it back. Maybe like all languages have allophones of something in their language. That's something we've been always looking for in linguistics anyways. But I digress. These are just details I wanted to show. If you guys care about these kind of transcriptions, this is what we do in linguistics anyways. But yeah, you can see with narrow transcription, I am more detailed in telling you what is actually happening to the word, whereas the broad transcription is just, I'm identifying mainly like what are the most obvious noticeable phonetic features when you say a word. Yeah. All right. So moving on, we have cliff. So here you could kind of hear cliff is also being, the I is being a little bit stressed. Cliff. Yeah, you could. And then next we have ocean. The O is the obvious one. Ocean. Because imagine if you were to say ocean. You can hear the stress. I'm trying to force it in the middle there. Doesn't sound right. So it's just ocean with the O being more stressed. All right. We are now going to go ahead and do our activities. I think this is the last page for it. Yep, it is. Because whenever I see this, I'm like, that's an indicator that this is the last page. We are going to look at 17.8. Listen to the audio and answer the questions. I'm also going to check if this is it. Yeah. And it says 17.8. I'm going to scroll down a little bit just so I can see. There we go. So Umar and Sharon are taking a quiz about places around the world. I'm gonna read the questions first so we can hear so we can be prepared on what to listen for. I like to use this method, and I think a lot of language learners, if you guys are gonna do like these comprehension check questions, I always recommend to read the questions first before you listen to something, just so it's fresh in your memory and you know exactly what to look for. But if you're someone who just likes to listen first and recall, that's fine too. Personally, for me, I like to read the question first because it's fresh in my head. I'm gonna do that first, and then we're gonna listen to the audio once today, and then you can listen to it as many times after the recording has finished for today, and you can watch us on YouTube. But yeah, just only once for now because it's just me, and I just want to finish today's stream. We have number 1. Sharon thinks the Andes are a bit longer than the Himalayas, much longer than the Himalayas, or slightly longer than the Himalayas. Number 2. What does Umar say about the Niagara Falls? It's one of the tallest waterfalls in the... it's one of the tallest waterfalls. It's the longest river, or it's by far the tallest waterfall. 3. What does Umar say is what is of the coast of Japan? The highest mountain, the Cone Falls, the biggest volcano. 4. What does Umar think is found in Antarctica? The largest glacier, the coldest glacier, the widest glacier. 5. Umar says the Pacific Ocean is a bit bigger than the Atlantic Ocean, easily the biggest ocean, much bigger than the Atlantic Ocean. 6. Umar says Canada's coastline is longer than Australia's coastline, by far the longest coastline, shorter than Australia's coastline. 7. Sharon says Canada is the world's biggest country, a lot bigger than Australia, a bit bigger than Australia. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the audio for you guys so you can listen to this.
Volcano.
Oops, my bad. This is not the right one. Here it is. Sorry guys. We already did that. Back here.
Sharon, the world's largest mountain range. Is it the Andes or the Himalayas? The Himalayas are definitely the tallest.
Yes, but the Andes are a lot longer than the Himalayas.
Okay, the Andes then.
Is the world's tallest waterfall Niagara Falls or Corn Falls?
Niagara Falls is one of the tallest.
But I think the Corn Falls is taller. Now, where's the biggest volcano?
In the Pacific Ocean, off the coast of Japan. I read about it recently.
Great! The world's largest glacier, is it in the Arctic or Antarctica?
Antarctica, definitely.
Okay then. Which ocean is bigger? The Pacific or the Atlantic?
The Pacific is much bigger than the Atlantic. I'm sure of that. And here's the last question. Which country has the longer coastline? Canada or Australia? I think it's Australia.
No, Canada is much bigger than Australia, so its coastline must be longer too.
You'd better be right.
Okay. I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, did they get the last one? Also, I'm just reviewing it from my audio too, just checking that the audio is working from my recording. Alright, let's go ahead and answer the questions now. So we said Sharon thinks the Andes are... Also, to be honest with you guys, sorry, I'm gonna a little bit sidetrack. We probably need to hear this a second time, just so we could double check that they got everything. But yeah, I'm just saying that personally, but again, it's just, I'm going to rush this just so we can finish this early. So yeah, if you need to hear it a second time, no problem at all. I personally think I should have listened to it a second time, but it's okay. So number 1, Sharon thinks the Andes are a bit longer than the Himalayas, much longer than the Himalayas, or slightly longer. The answer for number 1 is that it is much longer than the Himalayas. 2, what does Umar say about Niagara Falls? He says that this is one of the tallest waterfalls. 3, what does Umar say is off the coast of Japan? It is the biggest volcano. Okay, number 4, what does Umar think is found in Antarctica? So on number 4, he said it was the largest glacier. Umar says the Pacific Ocean is much bigger than the Atlantic Ocean. Number 4, Umar says Canada's coastline is shorter than the Australian coastline. And Sharon says Canada is a lot bigger than Australia. Okay. So again, if you need to listen to the audio again and compare the answers, feel free to. I also feel like I should have listened to it a second time, just because the speech is actually more natural. They're speaking a bit faster this time. And also the questions and the interaction, the discourse that Sharon and Umar are having is not matching the questions that they have here. So it does feel a little bit overwhelming to just listen to it one time. So yeah, I encourage you guys, listen to it again if you need to. And then just compare the answers that we provided here. Okay, next one, which is our final activity for today. We're going to read the article and answer the questions. So I like to do what I personally prefer to do, which is read the questions, then read. So we're doing a true or false question, finally, without something that says not mentioned. Just straight up true or false. We have the example, Antarctica is easily the coldest continent on Earth. They said it's true. Number 1, Death Valley is the driest place in the world. True or false? 2, the Atacama Desert is a lot drier than Death Valley. 3, Helsinki has much more daylight time than Reykjavik. Sorry if I mispronounced that. 4, the Congo rainforest is the largest one on Earth. 5, the Amazon is slightly bigger than the Congo. And 6, the wettest place on Earth is in India. Okay, so we're gonna check your answers here. Did you know Antarctica is by far the coldest and windiest continent on Earth? It's covered by permanently frozen ground, so we have Antarctica is the coldest here. Death Valley in California is the hottest place in the world with temperatures of around 130 degrees Fahrenheit. It's also one of the driest places in the world. So you might be wondering, what is 130 degrees Fahrenheit? I got you guys. So 130 Fahrenheit to Celsius. Bet you it's gonna be hot, hot, hot. This is gonna be 54.4 degrees Celsius. Okay, it's really hot. Next, the Atacama Desert in Chile is much drier than Death Valley. Some parts of the desert have had no rain for more than 400 years. That is wild. Reykjavik in Iceland has only 4.07 hours of daylight in December. Helsinki has slightly more daylight time than Reykjavik, around 5.5 hours. The 2 largest rainforests on Earth are the Amazon and the Congo, but the Amazon is much bigger than the Congo. The wettest place on Earth is Mawsynram in India, where the average rainfall is 11,871 millimeters per year. My goodness, that's a lot of rain. Okay, let's check. So Death Valley is the driest place in the world. We already read here. Death Valley in California is the hottest place in the world, so it's not the driest, therefore it is false. Okay. We have the Atacama Desert is a lot drier than Death Valley. So the Atacama Desert in Chile is much drier. So much drier than the Death Valley. So we already know much and a lot are similar. So the answer is just true. Just write true there. It's just a difference in word choice. Much and a lot is just similar. And we know this because ER, comparative. Number 3, Helsinki has much more daylight time than Reykjavik. We said here. Helsinki has slightly more daylight than Reykjavik. They said much more, so this is false. That is a big difference between them. So remember, much is like there's an obvious difference. Slightly is just like a little bit of a difference. Number 4, the Congo rainforest is the largest one on Earth. We mentioned here, the largest rainforests on Earth are Amazon and the Congo. Okay. So this would be false. It's one of. Okay. And number 5, the Amazon is slightly bigger than the Congo. The Amazon is much bigger. So again, word choice, slightly versus much bigger. That's different. So it has to be false. Number 6, the wettest place on Earth is in India. So we said Mawsynram in India. Okay? So it's true. So your answer should be false, true, false, 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 and true. Okay? Alright, that's the end of today's session on Chapter 17. We've survived. We will be going over Chapter 18, likes and dislikes, next week. I will try my best and try to frame questions on using adjectives for tomorrow's lesson and hopefully the day after that, so I apologize again. I'm missing practice from a few weeks ago. I'll try to get myself around that if we have the opportunity to. But yeah, I'm just really sleepy. I'm gonna do my best and get some work done, and then that's the end of today's stream. Or like I'm ready for tomorrow's stream. So let me go ahead and move that and move this back to the main screen. Okie dokie. So we've reached the end of today's lesson. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, feel free to leave comments on this video or in the Discord server. I have yet to upload some of the videos or like update the live stream tracker, so you might see some. I might be spamming them today. We'll see. I'll try to get as much things done tonight before I go to bed. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's session. I hope I gave you guys a lot of notes and things to think about for today's session. Other than that, just a reminder, I will be on tomorrow at 5 a.m. Fingers crossed I will be awake again. Yeah, because I really want to get back to my schedule of just getting back on that grind of waking up at 4 in the morning, feeling inspired to just work out and see that whatever I do does apply to everything that happens for the day. Yeah, just these small things. So if you don't see me post anything by tonight, maybe I'll sleep through and post something early in the morning. We'll see. We shall see. It's just I just want to be. I want to feel well rested. I want to feel well rested. That is the point. But yeah, I'll see you tomorrow morning for the second conversation practice for this week, and then Thursday will be the last for this week. And then English for Everyone, we just already completed that for today. We'll do that again next week for the next grammar lesson. And yeah, everything you need, you can find me on Discord. That is the code if you want to find me. I always recommend to just check it out on my Instagram link. If you guys check my bio, I have the link there, and just click on Discord. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, the link is also in the description. So it's all there for you guys. You'll see it there. In any case, that's it for today's stream. I'm going to wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good evening. drink some water, stay hydrated, eat something healthy. Wish you all a good day wherever you are in the world, or a good night. Good night from my end, at least. So yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow morning. Hopefully I'll see people. If not, it's okay. Just practice from these videos. Keep on practicing. And I'll see you guys next time. Okay? Bye guys. Take care. Good night.